broccoli soup. Today we're going to be making some broccoli soup. So I've just laid out all the things I'm going to need. And to start off with, I'm going to start by getting a small pot and I'm going to start making some stock. Now from the stock, I'm just going to take roughly around 2 cups of water. So I got a 1 cup measuring cup here and I'm going to put 2 cups of water inside of there. Now, I'm using a vegetable stock, but if you don't have vegetable stock, you could use chicken stock or different things that you might have available at home, but I think those would be my first 2 options, vegetable stock or chicken stock. In worst case scenario, you can just use plain water. So once you take your vegetable stock cube out, you're going to want to take off the outside paper, and then what I do, I'm going to just crumble it over top of the water just so that it breaks up. And I'm going to actually use 1.5 cubes at least because I want it to have good flavor in it. So this is going to help add flavor, but like I said, if you can't find it or you don't have it, you can definitely just use plain water. So there we go. I'm going to turn my heat on and I'm going to start to bring that to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to stop and set it aside. So the next thing I need to do is start preparing all of my ingredients that are going to go into my main pot for making the actual soup. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and cut off a small piece of butter. There's no precise measurement. I'm just going to grab like a little, what I would call a knob of butter. So something like a thin piece of butter, something like this, maybe a little bit more, not too much. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start sauteing up my stuff in a minute. Done with that, as soon as I'm done with things, wrap them back up and then put them away. So the other day we talked about peeling. So remember, when you're peeling, you always peel away from yourself. You're going to go ahead and you're going to peel a potato. Potato is really important for making soup because it's a starch. It's going to help to thicken up the base of your soup. Otherwise, it might be too watery. So again, always peeling away from myself. For the potato, because it's a root vegetable, we're going to want to chop it up quite fine. So go ahead, use the bridge hold, the claw grip, whatever's best for you. Cut it in half. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and cut these now into long strips that are roughly 1/2 centimeter, maximum up to 1 centimeter in thickness. And then you're going to take them, turn them the other way so you can see they've got these strips here. I'm going to turn this way. It's going to cut it like French fries first. Okay, so you got all these long pieces. And then what I want you to do is you're going to then dice it. So we're just cutting into small little cubes. So as we continue practicing our knife skills, these are all really great techniques to learn how to do. So again, I've got my 3 pieces that I cut here. Lay them and line them up. Cut them into French fry style long pieces. And then you're going to cube. Remember to use proper handling techniques. So I really like the blade grip, so I use the blade grip a lot. Take half of them and continue the process until all of the potatoes cut. Now once the potato is done, we're going to then move on to our next vegetable, the onion, and we're going to start cooking these 2 vegetables up first. You want to prepare all your ingredients before you start cooking, because otherwise you might find that things might want to burn. So we only need 1/4 of an onion. I got half of an onion here from the other day. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to 1/4 that, and then I'm just going to cut the top and bottom where the root and the stem were. I'm going to pull the outer layer of my skin of the onion off, again cleaning up my station. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did the other day. I'm going to cut the onion, but I'm not going to cut all the way to the end, just slightly cutting it so I can dice it up nice and small. Turn it the other way, and then continue the same process. You can do the mincing where you keep your fingers on the end of the knife and you rotate the knife back and forth, up and down where the handle is, to chop those onions up a little bit finer if you need to. Okay, my stock has now come to cook up. It's almost coming to a boil. I'm just gonna move that to the side as I start to cook up my root vegetables, because they're gonna take the longest as I'm preparing my other things. So the butter's in here. I'm just gonna set the butter and that onto the stove. Again, it's on a medium heat. You're gonna go ahead, once you start to see the butter starting to melt, we're gonna add in our onions. I'm gonna add in also our potato right away, because these are gonna take the longest to cook. Like it. So grab a heat-proof spatula, and then what you're gonna do is just gonna mix all of those ingredients around. You don't want them to stick or anything to the bottom, so you wanna make sure that they're cooking up in some of that butter. Starts to smell really nice with the butter and potatoes and onions all cooking up there. If you find that it's cooking too fast, what you can do is just grab a spoon or a small ladleful, and you can add a little bit of the stock that we just cooked into the pot, and that's going to prevent it from burning and just help to soften up as it starts to cook up those potatoes and onions. The worst thing you would have happen is it would just start to burn, so be cautious and conscientious of the stove and what's happening to your ingredients as they start to cook. So as those are cooking, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to just prepare the remainder of my vegetables. So I've got about one head, I had a little piece left over, of broccoli. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to peel off all of the leaves here from the stem. The stalk we can still use, okay, the stem. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut that off, and then I want to, again, do what I did before. Just cut this into nice small pieces so that it's easy to cook up, okay, later. As I chop it up, I'm just going to set things to the side. So I'm just using that same kind of technique that I showed you with the potatoes. There's no race here. As long as you're watching your potatoes and onions cook up and they're not burning. If they are starting to cook too fast for you and you can't keep up, you can wait, shut it off, and then finish cutting everything before you continue cooking on. Make sure you don't forget about it. Make sure you go back and stir and scrape the bottom of that bowl. You want to make sure everything's cooking up nicely, but not sticking or burning at the bottom. Again, I'm going to add another spoon or two of some stock into the potatoes just to make sure that they keep cooking up nicely. I can also start adding in some of the stock from the broccoli. Allow that to cook and soften. And then I'm going to just cut the florets, the top part of the broccoli. So I'm just going ahead like I showed you earlier. Use your claw grip up and down, just cut through the head of the broccoli. And then once that's cut up, you can just go ahead and pop that into your pot. Having a piece this big might be a little bit difficult for you to cut, so just break it down into smaller pieces that are more manageable for you to chop. And you can chop it this direction. It doesn't matter which way you chop it, so long as it's getting chopped up. always using that nice claw grip as I go ahead and do this. So again, just coming back, making sure I stir up my pot of ingredients. And now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in all of my stock that I have made. So make sure you give it a good stir. And pour that all inside. Like that. Keep cooking up as I chop up the remainder of this broccoli. Toss it in. Again, you still need to make sure you stir it. And I'm gonna add in here just a little bit of cauliflower, like whatever you can fit in one hand, and do the same thing you did with the broccoli. You're just gonna chop it up. If you don't have cauliflower, you can just use the broccoli. I just like to add a little bit in there. Find it makes it nice. There we have all the things that we needed pretty much inside of there. I'll just give it a good stir. And then what I want to do is I want to cook this up for about 5 to 8 minutes, depending on how much it's already been cooking. But you want to make sure that all the vegetables are nice and soft. And then we're gonna blend it to make it into a nice soup. So while that's all taking place, you can see my workspace is a little bit messy. Grab a towel and then just make sure you wipe down everything to make things nice and clean. When I wipe tables off, the way I'll do it is I'll take my cloth, lay it down, I'll move forward, turn, and then come back, turn. That way all the food stays right in front of the cloth. And then when I'm done, I can put my hand out and then catch it into my hand like so. Okay, so my soup has been cooking up for about 5 to 8 minutes. I think the vegetables are really nice and soft. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take it off and I'm gonna pour it into a blender. Be careful when you do this. You don't splash or splatter yourself. You can leave some of the vegetables out of the pot, and that's going to allow you to leave have some bits that are still in your soup, which I like to have a little bit sometimes. So sometimes I'll leave just a little bit inside there. Next, go ahead, take the lid, put it on top, and then we're just going to blend it. So I'm blending it up. And there you have it. In no time, your soup will have blended nicely, you can pour it back into your pot. Just use your spatula to clean out the blender so you don't leave or waste any of the ingredients left inside of there. And then you can go ahead and mix in those tiny little bits that were at the bottom that you left behind. And then as a chef, I think it's really important that before you serve your food, you actually go ahead and you're gonna taste it. But we have one more thing we're gonna add in here. We're gonna add in some cream. So I'm gonna go ahead, get some just whipping cream, just gonna cut this off. And I'm gonna add in about 1 tablespoon of cream. You can add a little bit more if you like, it's up to you. And then you're just gonna go ahead and you're gonna stir that in. If you're vegan and you don't eat cream, you can leave that out. But I think it just makes it really nice to add a little bit of the cream inside of there. So, okay, now we're going to taste it. And so with the vegetable stock that we added earlier, it's a bit salty, so it already adds some flavor to it. But if you're using just water, you're definitely gonna taste this and probably season it with some salt and pepper. I'm gonna taste mine right now. Take a small portion and taste test. I still think it needs more seasoning personally. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take some salt and I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. My salt grinder is very slow, so I have to grind it quite a bit, but yours might be different. And also I want a little bit of pepper in there. And this can be up to you, how much or how little you like. And then go ahead, stir that in. And then you're gonna get a clean spoon. Taste it again. Yeah, I think it tastes quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. So our broccoli soup is ready. We're gonna get a bowl. Take your bowl. You're going to pour or ladle in some soup. And then serve it with a piece of bread and enjoy. So we've just taken out some cheddar cheese and a cheese grater and just grated a little bit of cheddar cheese on top, and now it's ready to serve.